because
Yes.
you figured out in doing this that that's what you had to do to be able to answer, because they're gonna put distractors in there just based off this little box to test you and to trick you, right? And we're letting them know those things. Okay, that was great. Thank you for sharing that. All right, what else? I want to hear two more things, two more big ahas or takeaways that we're able to pull from today's activity and what this means for us in our practice.
The actual goal of the Exemplar DOL is to put down our thinking. Actually show our thinking.
The goal of the Exemplar DOL is to put down our thinking. That's a big statement. That's a big statement.
We have to humble ourselves to their level. That's number one. Number two, since we have taken the journey to reach to our destination, we should be able to share with them all that knowledge that we've learned and some of the challenging parts of the trip or the journey. So that way, it'll make it faster for them to get to the destination.
Excellent, excellent. What he's saying on faster, guys, is think about our students that we serve, right, and where they're coming from. And I want you to think, you guys know the ACE program in DISD? Accelerated,
Yes.
right? Campus Excellence. It's accelerated. That A is accelerated. Now I've got math and science folks in here. What does accelerated mean?
Speed.
Means increasing more over time,
Yep.
right? You're increasing more over time, more over time. If our kids are competing with suburban kids, right? They're competing with a suburban kid who comes from a home, who's got two parents, who make more than $50,000 a year, they have a house, they have decent cars, and they go on vacations and they get to experience this world and they eat dinner together. And our kid starts at the same place they do it educationally, and they keep moving through this world together, right? And our kids come from Mexico. Our kids come from broken homes. Our kids have to transfer from one apartment to the next, right? These are gaps and things that slow, right, the progress. So our kids are starting at a gap already. As educators, as professionals, our kids don't have time. Do you guys see the urgency that I'm talking about here? This is the part that fuels my fire. Our kiddos don't have time for us to make these mistakes and allow them to make a lot of these mistakes, because they will never catch, right? And there will always be a gap. We call it an achievement gap. There will always be this gap. And the only way we're gonna fix it is if we're better professionals about helping our kids get there in the same amount of time but accelerated, right? We gotta accelerate it, because a good parent would do that too, wouldn't they? Right? Doesn't a good parent have like, no, I need you to live every agonizing moment I lived. Right? Do parents ever do that? No, they don't, because we couldn't call them spoiled, right? We couldn't make these claims like, you don't even know what it was like when I was growing up and how hard I had it and what it was like with my mom and dad. You know what I mean? You don't tell them, you wouldn't be able to do that, because what we do is we guide them and tell them these things. And so, because we've gone on the journey, right? We've gone on the journey. So if we don't go on this academic journey before our kids do, we won't know how to guide them as efficiently, as expeditiously.
That's something that when I hear and when we were doing, it's for a moment I was thinking why we plan our lessons, for who we plan it. Are we planning for ourselves? Are we planning just for the sake of planning? Or we really planning for the students? Because that's when you start preparing a lesson plan and you start thinking, well, the kids probably are not going to understand this word. The kids probably need to have a reinforcement in this and the, and you create your list of possible mistakes. That's when you really plan for the students, you know, because it's not just, I want to present this topic, but how? If you have in consideration all these possibilities or factors that can go wrong in the presentation, you can actually avoid from the beginning the failure of the student.
Excellent. Excellent point. Any other final thoughts? Is anything that's brewing in your brain that you'd like to share with the group? Okay, what I would like to leave you all with is this. I've been trained in DISD on a lot of different things. I've received various trainings. This training is not Richard Castle training, okay? I just take whatever I learn and I'd love to elevate it, right? I like to take what I've got and make it better. It's been my life because I grew up extremely poor. You guys know this, I told you in a big meeting. And you take what you've got and you make it better. And so Paul Bambrick, this is his concept, right? This is the idea of exemplars and all of these. This is Paul Bambrick's stuff. But here's the thing that I learned. Thinking through the lesson protocol, I was a science teacher, and they took us and we did this training, thinking through the lesson protocol. That's what this is. But the problem is they didn't know how to teach us how to do it.
Right.
And they didn't know how to have us start. Like, what place do you start from? And I remember coming into this profession and saying, where do I start? Do I start by the unit design? Do I start by the lesson design? Like, how do I design and create my lessons and organize things, right? But bottom line, what Paul Bambrick has taught and what is very clear is, what is it that you want kids to know and be able to do? Find it. And if it's an assess type thing, if it's an SAT, an ACT, an AP, if it's an IB, if it's a STAR, find it, find examples like it, work backward from there, right? So here's what I do want to leave you with. If you're going back to class, and I'm not going to say tomorrow because I know tonight's a late night, I'm not going to ask you to revamp everything tomorrow. But if you go into next week and you find yourself creating activities to teach something that you don't even know what it is going to be yet, you're doing it wrong. You're going to go this path to get your kids where they need to be, and they need to go here. So you really need to pull that DOL, those release questions, whatever it is you really want them to do. If it's art, you want to pull the artwork that you're trying to show and model for them that shows and accents and highlights all of the techniques and everything that you're trying to get your kids to achieve. And you pull that and you break that down. But you got to start from there. And then all of your lesson activities will start to come. This is just phase one. We want you guys to get good at this. We want Skyline teachers to get good at this. Phase two for this training is going to be now craft your lesson activities based off of it. A lot of you are going to do that on your own already, because you're going to start recognizing, you're like, oh, now that I did this, this is the kind of practice I need my kids to do. This is the kind of activity I'm going to have my students engage in. I need them to talk to each other about this. You're going to start doing that on a natural progression, but we'll be more intentional. And then after that, it's aggressive monitoring. How are we going around and getting real live feedback in the moment to students with your exemplars in hand that fix that gap, right? Because I want you guys to highlight. I came over to social studies and I said, hey, when you see that word, what happens inside your brain? And you said Southwest, you said Southwest. I went to another table, right, with another group of adults, and it was the same problem. And I said, when you see that, what is that? What comes to your mind? Guess what they said? Southwest. So by golly, when I'm teaching this, I'm going to teach my kids, guys, when you see the word cattle ranch, think Southwest. This is the image I want, right? And that's why we show images. I want this image to pop in your brain. I want you to think Southwest. That's what I want you to do. Go do it, right? So that way they have something to hook to. So now it's taking me to know how I'm going to teach my lesson. But here's what I also want to say is, I just said a whole lot, very fast, like a salesman, right? Breathe. It's going to be okay. No one is expecting you. Dr. Lombardi's not expecting it. I'm not expecting it. Mr. Roos is not expecting it. Your AP. To do all this tomorrow, right? It does take time to get good at it. It takes time to get better at it. What we are expecting is us working every single day to get better as educators so we can give our kids the very best, right? And I think that everybody can go home tonight thinking that that's what we want to do. Nobody wakes up in the morning saying, I don't want to be better today for my kids, right? Like, I'm going to go to work and just put in a mediocre day because, right, we do want to get better. But in that place, allow people to push you to get better. That's the only thing I ask of you. The only thing I'm asking right now, the only expectation is allow people to push your thoughts and push you in a direction that's going to help advance the work that you're doing. Thank you guys very much for all of this tonight. Great conversation.